I will not wish, lest it perhaps offend them to see me grit with friends, and how the sight of me as a common enemy so dreaded once may now expiate them, I know not. Lords are lordliest in their wine, and the well-feasted priests then soonest fired with zeal, if aught religion seem concerned, no less the people on their holy days. Impetuous, insolent, unquenchable, happen what may of me expect to hear, nothing dishonorable, impure, unworthy, our God, our law, my nation, or myself, the last of me, or no, I cannot warrant. And that's the last words that Samson will speak to them. At line 1441, Manoah will return. Hey, I've got great news. This is all part of Greek tragedy as well. The irony, I got great news. I got this ransom. Then at 1472, what was that shout? This is the shout when Samson shows up in front of all of the feasters. 1485, we have some great lines on fathers and sons. We think of Priam and Hector asking for the body of his son from Achilles. At 1508, what is that loud noise? Of course, this is going to be the pillars falling then on all of the people, the Philistines who are partying. 1541, we have the confused messenger motif. Think about the end of Antigone when the messenger arrives to tell us what happens. At line 1558, Gaza's sons are fallen. Again, notice this, an act of violence on a house of worship. Of course, the Jews again knew about this kind of thing. Their temple desecrated several times, right? 1570, we're told Samson is dead, kind of like the death of Orestes and Sophocles' Electra in 673. And then in 1584, we're told that it was self-violence. Think of Hamlet's self-slaughter. At 1645, Samson's last words to the Philistines are spoken, and the chorus then will split. And at 1687, let's go there now to finish out. 1687, the semi-choir, but he, though blind of sight, despised and thought extinguished quite, with inward eyes illuminated, perspicacity, insight. We think of Odysseus, or of Oedipus, don't we? At the moment he sees, he goes blind and pokes out his own eyes, right? With inward eyes illumined, his fiery virtue roused from under ashes into sudden flame. And as an evening dragon, it's an interesting simile, watch this. And as an evening dragon came, assailant on the perched roosts, and nests in order ranged of tame Velic fowl, but as an eagle his cloudless thunder bolted on their heads, so virtue given her lost, depressed and overthrown, as seemed like that self-begotten bird, we'll finish with the phoenix, in the Arabian woods embossed, that no second thoughts nor third, and lay her while a holocaust from out her ashy womb, now teemed, revives, reflourishes, then vigorous most, when most unactive deemed, and though her body die, her fame survives, a secular bird, ages of lives. It's interesting that Milton chooses to finish with the notion of the phoenix, and the word fame comes to mind. 1733, we have the father who is wanting to take his son home to his father's house. We think about those final lines in Paradise Regained about Christ going to his mother's house at 1733. And then finally at 1745, the chorus will finish. And now we are reading the final words that Milton wrote poetically, at least, that were published. All is best. We think about that debate between Leibniz and Voltaire's Pangloss, for all is the best in the best of all possible worlds. All is best, though we oft doubt what the unsearchable dispose of highest wisdom brings about. We can't always understand why God does what God does. And ever best found in the close. Oft he seems to hide his face, but unexpectedly returns into his faithful champion hath in place, bore witness gloriously, whence Gaza mourns, and all that band them to resist his uncontrollable intent. His servants he, with new quest of true experience from this great event, with peace and consolation hath dismissed. And last line, calm of mind, all passion spent. We, with the word passion, of course, think of Aristotle's Poetics again, don't we? Well, there you go. The last lines of Samson Agonistes, the last lines that we have of Milton. Let's work now quickly with 2a and messages themes. Of course, the importance of suffering. Pain is a propedeutic. Why did this happen for me, not to me? We think of the idea of fate and fame. Is it true that in the end we get what we deserve, right? Of course, think about all the different relationships, themes here. Fathers and sons, husbands and wives, citizens and states, self and foreigner, right? Let's think about level 2B in rhetoric. We have Aristotle's Poetics. We've mentioned quite a bit about that. Think about blindness as a powerful symbol. We think about Oedipus and Sophocles' great tragedy. Think about the role of the chorus in Greek drama and the way in which the chorus will speak for the audience. And of course, it begs the question today when you read this poem, to what degree does it speak for you? Let's jump to 3A and the comparisons with other texts. Think about all of Milton's works and the way they all kind of work together in these major themes as we've been talking about them. Think about the Iliad and other classic texts of father and son, right? And of course, the notion of Achilles having the body of Hector and Priam coming to ask for it, begging for his son's body. Think of all those Greek tragedies that we've studied, right? We're going to see more of these in our study of the Harvard Classics. Finally, what is your favorite film about the relationships between guys and girls and the ways in which people will play that game of the misogyny of Milton and the notion that women are always the deceivers trying to ruin men? Finally, at 3B, how do you relate this to yourself? If we're learning at all, we've got to ask this question. How does this story work for you? Does it, for example, lead to some kind of catharsis? For example, do you feel sorry or do you feel any pathos for Samson? Or do you rather kind of see him as really kind of an ignorant jerk? What about all of this patriarchy and the misogyny of this text? How do you respond to this? We've said this in earlier lectures and the great feminist tradition, just to mention one text, Yellow Wallpaper. Now, why should that man have fainted? But he did. We talk about that in another lecture. Of course, finally, there is the challenge of Milton. What you try that has not yet been attempted, what is that for you? Milton said, I want to try to do something that unattempted yet in prose or rhyme. What is it for you? What will you try that has not yet been attempted? Reading Milton, of course, is a great example of how you can do something that's quite an accomplishment. I would say to most of my students, if you've actually read all of Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained and here Samson Agonistes, you've done something that only few students do anymore today. And I think that's sad, because I think even though there's a whole lot about this that we disagree with, there's reason to read it. It's profound nonetheless. Well, all right. That's Volume 4. We turn down to Volume 5 in the Essays of Emerson. Yeah, it's interesting that Eliot would decide to move from Milton in his next volume to Emerson. I think, though, it's fitting that if, as we leave England's greatest poet-philosopher, we meet America's greatest poet-philosopher in Emerson. Notice that in my last lecture on Paradise Regained, I ended with a reading of Whitman's Song of the Open Road. I'd like to make the argument that you can't have Whitman if you don't have Milton, and you can't have Whitman if you don't have Emerson. So I look forward to seeing you in our next series of comments on the great transcendentalist American thinker, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Thank you.